Hi, this is Goria Nenika, and today we will be talking about the influence that art has had on our collections over the last 15 years. Art has always been such an inspiration to, I think, all creative people, whether it's fashion designers or interior designers or just anyone, whether it's a sculptor and artists are inspired by artists and designers inspired by design. So I think it's only natural for designers to always be inspired by art and artists, especially with the beautiful colors. Gauri and I have always incorporated some kind of art into our work, I think, because right from like one of the oldest collections we did where we took Kandinsky's works and we made up our own print, and the shapes and the color blocking was all inspired by Kandinsky's works.
The clothes, exactly, the color blocking in the clothes were inspired from the work. The colors of the clothes were inspired from the work.
And then we developed a print as well. And art will always continue to inspire designers. Even now, Gauri and I have done several collaborations with artists. We have collaborated many times with this brilliant American artist called Travis Black.
Excited about our show at KNMA. It's something we always wanted to do, a fashion show in a museum. It's such a beautiful museum, and to present our works amongst all those spectacular artworks, it was thrilling.
It was such an honor.
And we worked very hard for that show. We put in more effort, I think, than we did for other shows, because it was something that meant a lot to us.
Of models walking through that museum, which is so many different rooms, and the way they walked among the artworks and the backdrops, and there was these stunning, like whether it was that golden Ravinder Reddy or whether it was those colorful razas, or just such impactful art that not everybody gets a chance to see. And then to have that fashion show through all those, God knows, 20 to 40 rooms, it was just spectacular and an unforgettable experience. Yeah, so art will just continue to always inspire creative people and provoke thought, and I think that's absolutely fantastic.
Be a big integral part of your life.
Hi everyone, this is Isha Bhansali. In fashion, most importantly, the biggest way to get art into our work is through print. And I think you've already heard Gauri and Nenika speak about how they've incorporated an artist's print on their work. And there are a lot of other designers as well who have done it so brilliantly. There is Versace, who had Andy Warhol's painting on their clothes. There is Elsa Schiaparelli, who had Dali's work on her clothes. If you all know about the Piet Mondrian, the Dutch artist, he had his geometric paint on Hermes's dresses. And Alexander McQueen, he had Damien Hirst's work on his clothes, so predominantly. So fashion has always been inspired by art. There is a common denominator between fashion and art, and that is a muse. To have a muse is how you express your feelings through art. And that is what is common between a person in fashion and a painter. I'm now a menswear celebrity stylist, and I'm lucky to be working with some great, fantastic personalities of Bollywood. My most favorite is Ayushmann Khurrana. He's such a brilliant actor. But at the same time, he's got a great personality that could pull off all sorts of fashion. And, he can carry it off with such aplomb. He's also open to experiments. And my recent most favorite look with him is this gorgeous twin set by Levi's, which was done in tie-dye. But I love the way it had been done. I love the color play, and I also love the way the colors have blended. It gives me a very Monet feel because he uses the same kind of colors in his paintings as well. And now that there's a lockdown, I've been doing a lot of sketches. I've been trying to do some portraiture as well. And I'm trying to do a bit of architecture, a bit of nature, and also clothing, because I love the way fashion and art come together.
Religious beliefs have inspired many of the world's greatest works of art. These master artworks have fueled the imagination of fashion designers, yielding some of the most innovative creations in the history of fashion. I am Ayushman Mitra from Bobo, Calcutta, and today we are talking about iconography in art and fashion.
I understood that there is some kind of depth that, the idea of vision, the idea of how the eyes look like, or how people say that you can penetrate into someone's heart and soul just looking into their eyes. And it all matched. Because the eyes has also been something that has been used and reused as a symbol of hope, I would like to guess. Because even from cave paintings, nobody literally painted the eye, but there was always this patch, of something being drawn. And modernism, abstractism, of course, broke that form. I've always been told if you cut out the eyes, people can look into the other parts of the painting better because the eyes attract a lot of attention. Automatically, it takes it there. So I thought that yes, maybe that's a great idea. So I started breaking form and listening to people. They were right. But I never ever got complete satisfaction of painting something without the eyes. As a young company, there's not much that we do or make where fashion is concerned. I still don't know it. I've never been to fashion school. I have only done fashion management, but I've never learned designing. I still don't know how to cut patterns. I still don't know the proper way of stitching things up. I can draw and I explain myself, and things sometimes happen, they don't happen. I'm still learning completely. But I just want this to go out. This idea of the eyes being hopeful, the ideas of being together, the ideas of liberation. And I think these kissing faces with these large, charming eyes really bind us together. And it is time that just get together.
This is Amit Aggarwal. I feel the natural world around us is one of the finest art forms one can ever come across. It teaches us more things about sustainability, about creativity, about survival, about the finesse of design and function more than anything else. And I think somewhere the intersection of lines, be it through architecture or modern art, has been an imperative influence in my growing up years. Also in the formative years, sketching or drawing at the NIFT in Delhi, and also studying about Indian art culture has been a very, very important influence in a lot of the work that I have done at the studio and under Amit Aggarwal. One of the key influences in a lot of the things that we do has been the Rorschach ink blot. I think my journey about creation really started from the basic understanding of the fluidity and the malleability of a Rorschach ink blot. I think that is where I really drew a lot of inspiration, because it kind of opened my mind to see a lot of different forms, structure, detail. I did immediately, of course, connect it with the beauty of the butterfly. I think one of the most wonderful natural design forms, and I think it was almost how the test was designed to basically test your mind or what you were thinking has really been a key influence in a lot of our work. I've always felt art and fashion are synonymous. I do feel that both feed off each other. I do feel both start cultures, both start movements, and I think that sometimes they actually blend in a beautiful gray area where you can't distinguish between the two, but all you do is sit looking at them in utmost beauty, in utmost joy. And I think that they both coexist and feed off each other beautifully. Where art has inspired a lot of fashion that we create at the brand, I hope fashion creates the art that the world needs at this current time.
Ararara holi, sararara holi, ararara holi, sararara holi, ararara sararara gali gali holi.
I quote Dusho here. He said it. What is an art? Who decided? Critics decided or the maker decided? So I tell you, the problem is not what is art. The problem is the definition of art. I think the definition need to be fluid. The minute you decide what is art, then you decide, okay, this and this is art. To me, the definition of art itself need a fluidity.
I always thought, we are a land of threads, right?
Yes.
You have to have the janai,
Right.
you have to have the rakhi. We are just, threads are everywhere. And yet we seem to not go into, I'm all about fashion being social, political, emotional. And I just wanted to know that, is it just me? But I do feel that this dialogue was seriously missing in our narrative as a modern country.
See, as I said in the beginning, that I'm having a dialogue with myself, own self, and a work in a context. Well, when I started working with textile, of course, I wanted to shoot it and express, and it's kind of a communication, right? And I wanted to show that. It's very interesting when I looked at Indian so-called textile or garment, the fashion, whatever you call it, I didn't have any reference to it. So what was our historical reference to the textile or a sari? Everything what I saw is so-called fashion photography from the West to me. So I really questioned it. I called a few journalist friend of mine. I said, I want you to shoot it. And that happened from the Open magazine or certain people who never showed fashion before. And people also who were the model, they would know, I didn't have any particular age in my mind or the certain occupation. I think that was also a very people could relate to it. And once I had everything colored, once I had something, no model in it. And I've been questioning many different perspective and point of view. And I think that's been exploring through the dance and through the music.
So having been born and brought up in Calcutta, art was a huge part of our growing years. And my mom went to Shantiniketan and greatly influenced, obviously, by the Bengal masters. We started our Montage Arts, which is a gallery, 21 years ago. It was basically to promote Bengal art, because we felt at that time, and a lot has happened in the last 2 decades, that there wasn't that much of interest, or people didn't quite understand the Bengal masters, the Tagores and Jamni Roys, things I've grown up with. Soon after I joined Christian Dior in 2006. So 2007 was this massive celebration of 60 years of the House of Dior and 10 years of John Galliano. Now, art has been a very huge part of Dior because Mr. Dior, he was part of a gallery, and Jacques Couture, etc., were his friends, and they worked together, and they're very, very influenced by art. And the house carries that on because there have been so many collaborations ever since, you know. So I think it's very interesting. I mean, art will always be part of fashion because fashion, it is art. Fashion is art. It is the biggest influence of any creative person is always art. The visual of anything, that's art. It's a visualization. So it is very, very important.
Hi, this is Sahil Couture, and I'm here to talk about how art has influenced me as an individual, the way it has shaped my aesthetics over the years. As a kid, I literally had no exposure to art, but I remember back in school, the first thing that I ever designed for myself was my school uniform. And thereafter, I knew I have to be associated with a creative field. There were a lot of inspirations that I was going through, but this one fine day, I happened to be in the Craft Museum in Delhi, where I stumbled upon this craft called Chawla pith from West Bengal. I remember seeing an artisan there who was working with the pith of Chawla plant, where he was carving out thin strips and shapes out of it, which he then put together and layered one on top of the other to create an image of an Indian goddess. The moment I saw that, I knew this is what our theme is going to be for the first collection. The collection was titled Fuler Tora, which literally translates to a bouquet of flowers in Bengali. This was our ode to the Chawla pith Malakars of West Bengal. After our first collection, we realized that applique is going to be an important part of the brand's identity, and we wanted to develop on it and make this a signature. Over the years, we have had many inspirations for our collections, and I categorically remember this collection titled Chitra, where we were inspired by the bold and graphical artworks of Ayumi Takahashi. Her strong and powerful representation of women in her artworks was something that even we tried to incorporate in our collection. Art is a mirror to society. It is very representative of the era that it was created in. But at the same time, it has a timeless quality, which makes it relevant even centuries after it was made. I want my clothes to have the same timeless quality, elevating the status of a wardrobe to that of a museum. One that houses artworks created by artists for whom the canvas is their clothes.
The idea of art combined fashion has always existed. I think as I look back at my education at an ID, a place which is multidisciplinary in its approach, I think from very beginning I was very, very interested in art, idea of visual communication, graphic design. And I also had a little chance to make some films. I also had a lot of interaction with visual communication students over there. So even when I started my entire process journey of embroideries, my very first collection was inspired by MC Escher's work. I think for me, he happened to be almost godlike figure when it comes to monochrome, black and white, optical illusion, whether it's an infinite loop made by him or it's a metamorphosis painting. It's equally mind-blowing. So not just the art itself, I take a lot of inspiration from artists' life. Or maybe when you look at one of my Paris Fashion Week collection where I took sunflower as an inspiration, and obviously when I was looking at that, Van Gogh's work, where he very famously quoted also, "In a way, sunflower is mine." So this is somehow, it's so amazing, so strong as a statement when an artist owns, a beauty created by nature. These artists are such an amazing, inspiring institutions. I, as a designer, end up taking, a bit of light from them, and what we create shines because of their genius, because of the beauty of what these artists create. Art is almost like poetry, almost like music, which touches your soul deep inside. And we all are living in a beautiful times that we are able to access, a lot of these things. We are able to go to museums and visit these masterpieces, see them in real.
Hi everyone, we're SHIVAN and NARRESH. For me, art has always been very nature inspired, and I have been massively inspired in that context. I remember going and studying in Milan, going to the Museum of Natural History and literally discovering millions and millions of insects that they've preserved and showcased. They were jewel toned, they were beautiful. I felt that was art to me.
And honestly, I think that was our first journey and the first SHIVAN and NARRESH collection that we made. And honestly, I think that's how our journey began, with that show that we did in south of France, in Cannes. And that's where our journey began. Even when we started SHIVAN and NARRESH, it was a similar journey that I took within the realm of my company. Because I was designing prints and I was graphically working on the artistic vision of what this brand is going to look like, I felt like I was still continuing my journey as an artist and making art a very, very personal point of view. And probably that's the essence that you get when you see any SHIVAN and NARRESH print, that there is just such a unique personal angle to all SHIVAN and NARRESH prints that you see, that it doesn't matter which season, which year you pick a collection from, it's absolutely timeless. And probably that's the reason that we decided to not even label them by the years, and actually we call all our series, all our collections by the name of the art series that they were inspired by, because I feel that art lives forever.
Hey, I'm Nikhil of Shantanu Nikhil for the Art Meets Fashion series with Kiran Nadar, Museum of Art. You know, there's always been a great amount of influence of the Renaissance period in our work. The drape, the structure, the fluidity, it all comes from that deep, the beauty that we've seen from that movement, especially when you look at the Pietà of Michelangelo's work. So far back it was created, and even now that it makes such an impact on people. Our drapes, our whole philosophy of romanticism with a certain amount of fierceness comes from that time, and it's beautiful. The Indian art master that we really enjoyed seeing was MF Hussein's Raj series. Very clearly, he adorned the military, the regimental, the strong influences of the army sitting on a horse, and one of our collections was truly resonating that balance of what he did and how we played it out. Yes, so MF Hussain and the Raj.
Art to me is my place of solace. You know, when you find something that you are so happy doing, there's a kind of peace. It's always been a part of my life, and it's always been a part that made me maybe delve into a space, be happier for it. You know, I love working in pictures, movies that have a vast change in either in people or in the person itself. And an artist, to work on an artist, like when I worked in Couture, as you said, it's great expectations. We've all read it. We've all read it as children. It's one of the biggest classics. We've all, you know, lived through their lives. And when Abhishek Kapoor adapted it to Kashmir and stuff, which is beautiful. You know, just Kashmir is like a painting, you know. So then to put these people into that painting and how it would work, that was really important. So in the new age, to have an artist in Kashmir, to be going through that kind of angst, to have, you know, to have a Katrina being someone, you know, he looked up to, he loved, and how, you know, he would pursue that, and that engulf him. So yeah, so had to have you know, and there's a huge difference when you look at a Raja Ravi Verma and you look at the two. There's a difference between the characters. We're all different. We're different in time, like I spoke about my little time capsule. We're different in ages. We're different in varying ages of ourselves. And it's very important to make sure that you're true to capture that. Like I said, it has to be true to capture that essence of the person to put out. You know, whether it be a Katrina or an Aditya, whatever it is, whatever you're doing in Couture, and whether it be Imran, you know, in Delhi Belly, whatever it is, you have to be true to that character and what they're going through and who they are at that point, and bring that. So that's the fun, and that's the, for me, is the art of every piece that you do, because it has to be that, and then you give your expression. Which is lovely.
good afternoon to everybody on this Kiranada series of art and fashion. I'm going to talk about my exposure growing up and how art is such an important part of my life in fashion, as an Indian, as an individual, and all the things that it does for me consciously and unconsciously. Because my mother herself was interested in art and would screamingly, scratch some money together to buy early Hussains and Akbar Padamsis and Krishan Khanna, my grandfather bought. I sort of grew up in homes where these things were not taken for granted, but they were very much part of the landscape, where every wall would have some spectacular piece of art. In the most eclectic mix of books, paintings, again, Hussain, Krishan Khanna, beautiful Taib, Gaitonde, you name it. And then sometimes some European artists mixed with books, modern sculpture, old carpets. And it's really defined my style and what I think is beautiful. In many ways, I think all this contemporary art influences and polishes my eye in so many different ways. I can flick through this book and have thousands of new color combinations. I see perspectives that I wouldn't have seen before. And my entire house almost has no more place to put a single thing. But as I grow older and I go through life, I see things differently all the time. And so it's my journey and my engagement with the art. We had planned to do a show quite often, very often I plan to show at the Kiranada Museum because I love the idea, but then my friends Gauri and Anika do it. And I'm sure we will get to do it one day. But I just want to say in conclusion that every time I look at something, I open this page, the black and white, with these beautiful, the ombre, the shading in colors that I would never see, which would never be worn. There's an adventure for me every day, every time I open the book and look at a photograph. And I hope that adventure continues for the rest of my life around the world. Enjoy it.